Howdy, howdy, and welcome to Workshop Wednesday. Today it's all about what's new. That is our category of choice, and we're going to cover the updates and features released in May 2019. So I'm looking forward. There's actually some pretty interesting ones that came out over the past 30 days or so. My name is Chris Mercer. Welcome. I do go by Mercer, and I'm the co-founder here at measurementmarketing.io, where you can find our content on other platforms like Digital Marketer, Conversion Excel, Social Media Examiner, and of course, the course is over at measurementmarketing.io. We help marketers, marketing teams, agencies know their numbers and grow their numbers. We do that by helping you understand how to use the tools that we all know and love. Well, at least maybe we know of. Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, Google Data Studio, Facebook Analytics, stuff like that. We're going to be talking about different updates for those platforms in this particular one. And of course, we always talk about the measurement marketing framework because it helps us put this information into context. That framework is as follows. First, you've got to make sure that you're planning out everything that you need in your measurement. What questions do you want to ask? What information do you need to get those answers? Obviously, that's the stuff you want to make sure is measured. And then ultimately, what actions you're going to take for those. Then it's the build out. We're using tools like Tag Manager and Analytics. In fact, today, and this is kind of why we do this because it helps put these workshops into context, some of the stuff we're going to talk about directly affects the build out that you'll be able to do. Then there's the reporting. And fortunately, as is expected, really, I'd almost bet money on it month after month. Data Studio came out with even more updates this past month. So reporting is going to get a little bit easier. And then, of course, once you've got your benchmarks, you can begin to forecast. And ultimately, you send real traffic against what your forecasts were. And that's how you know where to optimize because you'll see what's working and what's not. With all of these workshops, one new concept, one new idea is all you're looking for. Now, this is an update workshop, so we hit a lot of different things here just to update you, right? Because some of these aren't going to apply to anybody. Some of them are going to apply to more than one thing is going to maybe apply to you. So, one concept is all you're looking for. Then you practice that concept. Then you can come back, rewatch this workshop. That's why we make them available so that you can kind of practice the next new skill set. If you try to do everything at once, it almost always ends up in overwhelm and frustration. So just one new concept, one new key is all you're looking for from this workshop. And again, then you rewatch it. Okay, let's get started, shall we? What's new? Updates and features released in May 2019. Now, I'm just going to dive right in because that's kind of how we do these workshops. We're going to take a look at what's new. Now, this one, sadly, I don't think there's a ton new back here in Google Analytics, except for some of you. Now, why I say that is because you should stay tuned to this little area here under e-commerce. And really, we don't use enhanced e-commerce, so really it's more probably for those of you using enhanced e-commerce, I think would be useful. But Google Analytics has announced they are beginning this beta program. It's invitation only, and to my knowledge, there is not a way for you to knock on their door. They must knock on your door to get this. But what the concept is tracking offline purchases. So if you have a brick and mortar store or multiple brick and mortar stores, and you want to be able to send Google ads, let's say, traffic, and it's coming into your analytics, you've always been able to track that it showed up to the page and everything else, but it's been more difficult to track if they actually purchased by walking into a store and picking up a product and taking it home in a bag, right? Now, Google Analytics is going to be able to do that, and they're just rolling out this test. So what will happen is if you are one of the lucky chosen, you will be tapped on the shoulder to be invited to join this beta program. And then you're actually going to see something that says offline purchases and people that actually show up and buy in store. Like, how cool is that? So it's just another example of how they're continuing to expand out Google signals. And I think it's really interesting that they're going that direction because I look forward to everything else that's coming through this direction. It's going to be amazing, I think, from a marketing perspective. So stay tuned for something like that if you are brick and mortar. Now, if you do have brick and mortar locations and you don't have the Google My Places business stuff set up, like that's the first step. You got to get through, make sure you've got Google My Places all set up. You've got your Googleverse, so to speak, coordinated. You've got all your locations in there. You've got proper contact information. Google essentially needs to know that you are a brick and mortar, that you are advertising on Google Ads, that you are sending traffic into your store, and that's who they're looking for. So if that's you, just make sure that, I guess the real way to sort of tap them and say, hey, could you please consider us for this, would be making sure that all that stuff is set up too. So if you don't know how to do that, now's time to reach out to somebody and make sure that they get that stuff done. So that's kind of it on the Google front as far as we were able to tell big changes. Now, Tag Manager, on the other hand, big changes, loving Tag Manager, as I often do. So Tag Manager here, there's something called templates. And you've probably seen this show up in your own Tag Manager account recently. So templates, here's what this is. And I've created one, just a little quick dummy one here for you to see. So what templates are, they solve a problem that your developer has with you using Tag Manager, essentially. And here's the challenge. As a developer, and you have to think through it from their perspective, as a developer, if you go to create a tag and it's a custom HTML tag, you could be dumping kind of whatever into the site, into my beautifully developed site, and wreak havoc and not know it because you're not a developer, right? You're a marketer using Tag Manager. And so there's been this problem that developers have had to be like, okay, how do we keep people from destroying everything in here? These marketers who are coming in with all their pixels and everything else and these tracking scripts that they're creating and just not knowing that they're destroying this other part of the website they had no idea was even there. So the way they used to do that, the way you would typically do that, is you'd have these permission levels. So it's like, oh, well, you can't publish, but at least you can like edit. And then the developer would publish. And that's one way of stopping that. But now there's this whole other way, which I love for multiple reasons. And I would expect, this is one of those things that just came out, but you watch within a year, shorter within a year, it'll be pretty quick, I think. You're going to see a lot of blog posts talking about, here's a template, here's a template, here's a template. Let me show you. So what this does is this creates, and I'm going to show you kind of the end in mind here first. So what this is for your developers. You absolutely need to be a techie for this. So I'm going to put that up front. But I want to show kind of from the marketing standpoint how you would use it. So from the tags, I go into a new tag. I click on my tag configuration and look what shows up. So here's my built-in Google ones. Then typically under custom, I had custom HTML and custom image. Now I've got Mercer's template with our little measurementmarketing.io logo. How cool is that? What essentially this is it acts like these do. And in fact, it's very similar structure. So how these vendors got their stuff done was basically building a template that they're managing on their end, and they submit it to Google, and Google says, yeah, you're approved, you're an approved vendor, and then it shows up in this vendor list of all the built-in tags. And again, these are very easy because you click in here, you put in your ID, like in this case for Hotjar's built in. I can't edit the code, I can't change anything here. All I can do is put in my ID or not, right? That's exactly what you're going to be able to do, only now instead of having to rely on a third-party vendor, you can do it for yourself, or technically your developer can if you don't have the skill for it. So like in this case, I'm going to click on it. There is actually, I didn't set up any options at all, but this is what it would be. It would be like whatever code that this had in it is going to run on the page. You cannot change anything. And so it helps the developer create something for the marketer. So the marketer, as a marketer, you can still get what you need done, but the developer has kind of control over the code so they can make sure that the code is sanitized and it's not doing anything it shouldn't be doing. And so they're controlling that part of it. And honestly, you don't need that part of it. And then you can put in whatever you need that they allow you to put in. So for example, I can see very quickly, I can see somebody doing this with a Facebook pixel, where the Facebook pixel is built in for them. They have a template for a Facebook pixel, and there's a block that says account number. And you just put in the account number, and then it fires off the initialization for a Facebook pixel. And nobody's tweaking the code anymore in Facebook, because otherwise you kind of have to do that in your custom HTML tag. So I can very quickly see that being a use case. I think that's actually a pretty simple one to get set up as well. And again, we won't have time to do that on this workshop. This is more just allowing you to sort of see what the changes are, making you aware of these things. But it's absolutely something to watch. Here's another big reason why. And by the way, I'm going to go into templates here. So creating these, basically the same steps. So you come in here, you put in what the name of everything is. This would be creating a new one, right? So I'd say my new template. You do the fields that you want them to add in. This would be like the account number or the whatever else they had. This is the actual code for the script itself, and this is what it can do, right? So it's got all these different permission levels. Your developers will love these. So if you've kind of sometimes worked with your developer and they haven't really been super keen on Tag Manager because of something like this, this is the answer. This is something that you and them should be talking about. So this is huge in so many ways. Now, here's what's cool. This up here, import and export. Now, I've not personally played with this, right? We just sort of seen this coming out. But if I can share templates with you, I can create a template and then share it with you. That means you can share templates with me. And now we can start, importing these things. I mean, that's kind of interesting. So now everybody from a developer standpoint can start creating templates that show up where the code's kind of locked down like that. I think that's interesting, right? So again, we haven't really played with that stuff quite yet, but this is curiouser and curiouser. Like, I love this. I think this is such a great idea for Tag Manager to do, because it solves the problem of the wild marketers out there, right? And I'm definitely more on the marketing side than the developer side. And so I'm out there changing stuff in the site, breaking everything, and all the developers are like, what's going on, right? This is how you can solve that, right? Developers can now keep that from happening. They say, hey, here's your, what tag do you want? Great, give it to me. They make a template out of it. They share it in here, and now I can use it as a regular tag. It's a built-in tag. They can do the same thing with variables, by the way. So instead of having to do a bunch of custom JavaScript variables that maybe you're copying and pasting and maybe you're breaking stuff, you can give them to your developer. They can create a variable for you, and it would show up in your variables list now that you can just, put stuff in, whatever you need. Like it's fantastic what the options are here. So tag templates and variable templates in general, right here, brand new feature with Tag Manager. This one's only, again, within the last 30 days, it's come out. So I wanted to make you aware of that. I think it's huge, and I think you should watch that spot because I think people are going to be doing some cool stuff with it. So with that in mind, let's move on to Data Studio. Data Studio does not disappoint yet again. Multiple changes that have come out for Data Studio. I want to talk about some of the highlights. One of them, again, very technical. But I wanted you to be aware that it's a thing, because from a marketing perspective, sometimes that's the helpful part. They have allowed chart interactions now for community visualizations. Now, community visualizations are really for technical individuals to create these, right? You have to have a lot of skill for this, but maybe somebody on your team does, and it's worth talking to them, or you can find somebody on Upwork or somebody to do something for you. But a community visualization, what that means is instead of creating, being sort of reduced to only using the built-in charts and tables and components that are there, like a line filter or bar chart or something like, or a line table or bar chart or anything like that. Instead of that, you can create a completely different visualization. This is actually a visualization. This is a heat map visualization that's community visualization. So somebody created this. So what this does now, what they've allowed this sort of next step, and you've always been able to do this, or recently I should say, have been able to do this with the built-in reports that exist, the built-in visualizations, if you will. These community ones now have the ability to interact. So I can click on it, and I can click and I can see, oh, here are all the different things I wanted to see data on. And I can click through and notice that this is changing based on how I'm using this, right? Using this community visualization. Of course, you can go through and clear the filter out, and then everything's in there. If I say, just want to see these dates, here's the ones I see. If I just want to see this, here's what I see. So it's another way of being able to interact with Data Studio. And if you have not played with this, by the way, the idea of being able to click on a Thursday and see just Thursday's information in the other charts, it's super cool. And this is a built-in visualization. This is just a table, but this is built in already with Data Studio, and you can turn this feature on. So this is announced a little while back. We covered this on our previous updates workshop, but this is super, super useful to be able to interact with data and very quickly see, like, here's what I'm looking for, and it just pops up. So I think it's great that they're allowing developers, again, to sort of pull out and say, okay, I want to see the entire visualization itself, and I want to be able to interact now with those visualizations. And again, I'm excited for what that community, who's actually the literal community, who's out there building other visualizations for Data Studio, and what they're able to do. Because, sometimes you don't want to see the same old sort of report. You need a different style report, and community visualizations help you with that. So you can import those. So super exciting. And if you haven't checked out community visualizations, that was an announcement they did back in November. We covered that, I think, back in December, November area, somewhere around there, at a workshop that we did for updates back last year. So this is constantly going to evolve, and it's going, there's just no way around it. It will allow Data Studio to continue to evolve in the marketplace, because now it's like a WordPress plugin. Now the platform can evolve in areas where people need to solve a certain problem. They can create a plugin for it with WordPress. Here, if you need a certain type of report that doesn't exist, you can create one using these community visualizations. So stay tuned to these. And if you haven't taken a look at those, I'd definitely look at those as well. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you that I think was the biggest. Now, there was a couple of things I want to mention around database dimensions and stuff like that. So if you're using BigQuery, MySQL database connections, things like that, they have expanded the number of dimensions that you can bring in and sort by. So if that was a limitation for you before, might not be a limitation anymore. So revisit that if you're using that. But this one will apply to everybody, because I think it's super cool. This is page linking. Now, you have been able to do this in the past, but they have expanded and improved, I think, the functionality of how to do it. So here's what page linking is. So we're on page 1 right now of my fantastic dashboard, and I want to go to page 2. Now, I could do this and go to page 2, but that's boring. So instead, I want to go click here and go page 2. Bam, now I'm on page 2. Now, what if I want to go back to page 1? Well, I can set up a page link for that. So how do I do that? So this is the part I wanted to show you. This is kind of the update. So you sort of highlight whatever the part is you're going to change. Then you go to insert link, which is over here. So it's on the right-hand side. You click on insert link. Then this pops up. So I can display it, right? Display text, I'm going to say is page 1. And then this is what's cool. So you can do fixed pages. And if I move this page around, the link stays intact, which is great. Another sort of, I think, really cool thing about this is if I copy the dashboard itself, like if I make a copy of somebody else's dashboard, all those links kind of are relative. They get remade in the copy. And so the copy still links to itself properly. It does not link to the original anymore, but it would link to itself properly. It would link to its page 2 or its page 3, which is really neat. The other thing is dynamic. That was kind of cool. So you could say, oh, next page, next page, next page, last page, right? The little next and last, and first and previous. So that's great. So if I wanted to create a page to go to page 3, I can say, well, go to page 3, or I can say, well, just the last page, since page 3 happens to be the last page. But if I add a page 4, then last would automatically link to page 4. So there's really cool things that you can do here. And again, I'm just going to show you how easy this is. So link it to page 1. Again, I could link it to a new tab. I'm not going to. Click on apply, and then bam, page 1. So now if I go to view, I can say, this is page 2, let's go to page 1. Now I'm on page 1 of 3, right? So there's page 1, this is page 1, go to page 2, and vice versa. So page linking and be able to do that so quickly and easily is really cool. And I think it's something you might miss if you don't click over here and see this little icon right there. This is the hyperlink. So it's over on the right-hand column under text properties. Click that link and you sort of select whatever you want, then you can type in the text. So that I thought was a big change to make things easier. And when you make your reports, this is why this is important. When you make your reports easier to use and easier to get through for whoever the user is, whoever the end user is, right? Like some of us, we're just more comfortable in spreadsheets, but you give it to somebody else and they're like, I have no idea what to do with this, right? So that's what Data Studio is so good about. You can create a dashboard that just gives very specific data, it answers very specific questions that the end user, whoever's using it, even if it's you, that the end user has. And it just does that really well. Well, if you make it easy to navigate through, then they're able to find out their own stuff, right? The easier you make that design to get through, the more they're going to use the report, the more useful it's going to be for them, the more they're going to love you. So again, even if that is you, if you are the end user, the more you're going to love yourself for doing it. So take advantage of page linking because it's a great way to navigate through Data Studio reports as well. Now, we also took a look at the other big platform, which is Facebook Analytics. Did not see a lot of changes on there. So I'm always sort of keeping an eye out. They haven't really come up with anything recently on that one. So we're sort of keeping that one up to date. But, again, haven't seen anything coming through on that particular route. So that brings us to a close on the updates for the last 30 days. Hopefully you got at least one new thing. For mine, it was the templates in GTM. And I'm already thinking about cool ways that I can do something with like the Facebook pixels and lock those down in a particular way for our team so that I'm not having to have everybody copy and paste a kind of a raw Facebook pixel, because there are use cases where you might need to adjust the code in that Facebook pixel. And I don't want to have to necessarily teach them how to do all this technical stuff over and over again. Now I can create a Facebook template and then I can do all the editing stuff on the code that I need to do, and then just make it, hey, put the account number in here, and they can find the account number, and then they just pop in the account numbers and they're off to the races. Like, that's awesome. So, and the ability to import and export is intriguing, because if that means that what I think it means, which is maybe that we can share this stuff between each other, like you and I can create our own templates and share back and forth, or, I think that's going to be great. You're going to see a lot of collaboration in the community around this. So check out templates. That was definitely my one thing. My second one thing was the linking in Data Studio, because I'm going to be using that quite a bit, because I think that's just great for navigation. All right. Hopefully you got at least one new thing. And again, if you practice this stuff, even if it's a real quick report like I did, you saw with Data Studio, just do that, because it locks the skill down and you understand where it is, and how it works, and you go, cool. And then you rewatch this and pick something else up. Now, if you are looking to learn new things, get your win on. We've got lots of win courses. Measure.tips/courses will take you there. Something else I wanted to mention, just to kind of show it to you, we have monthly pass now, which is available. So this is the page for that. The win course page will also take you this, but these are all the different win courses that currently exist, where we cover very specific answers. Like if you want to learn regular expressions, we got a win for you. Monthly pass gives you access to all of the courses all at once, and these are the new courses. We just did one on analytics that's now available. We're currently in the middle of funnel tracking, actually. Then we'll be doing churn, retention, cohorts, stick rate, things like that. These are the next ones that are coming up later in the year. About every 4 to 6 weeks is when we do a new win course, and monthly pass gives you all of them. But again, whichever one you're interested in, whether it's buying a specific win or monthly pass itself, measure.tips/courses will take you there, so you can get more information on both of those options. And of course, if you are having a team, if you really want something a little more robust than just a one-off course, measure.tips/start will take you to the Measurement Marketing Academy. This is a snapshot of what's inside the academy waiting there for you. You automatically get all of the win courses. You can see them all here. So we have all the win courses there, including all current and future will end up being there for you. Workshop Wednesday is what you're watching now. We've got Workshop Library. All the workshops from Workshop Wednesday get edited down into what we call student editions, student versions, and they're put into the Workshop Library. Why is that there? It's because of the search box. So you can come in here and say, linking Data Studio reports 6 months from now, and it'll pull up this workshop and probably be another workshop where we do a deep dive in how to actually do that, or creating a Google Tag Manager template. We'll have a workshop that's entirely dedicated to just that. It'll be in the workshop library. So what happens is the workshop library ends up becoming like this resource you can go to with just videos that are focused on answering questions around digital measurement, right? All things measurement. Workshop series is just a way to organize those. We have different categories of Workshop Wednesday, like we are in the What's New category right now. So we have a What's New series. We also have a Getting Started series that's for beginners. So it's all beginner-oriented topics around all the different tools. Then there's a Beyond the Basics. So GTM templates, for example, these Google Tag Manager templates will be a Beyond the Basics workshop that'll be in that series. And then we also have Strategy Session. That is for people who want to not really they're not on the implementation side of things. They're actually maybe doing the build out in Tag Manager and Analytics, but they're the ones using the numbers. They're the ones who want the dashboards. They're the ones who want to know what questions to ask and what to do with the answers and that sort of stuff. So that's Strategy Session series. So we have all of those back there. We also, as part of the Academy, have Academy Office Hours. It's a member-only Q&A. That each and every week we do that. Currently Wednesdays at 3:30 p.m. Eastern we do that. And that's group coaching with an instructor. So it's live on the calls. We show up. Anybody who shows up can get answers to their questions. And it's not a pack of people that show up. It's a few people show up each week, those that need help. And they talk through their situation. They can share screens. And you can talk with somebody who understands what you're trying to do so that you can really get unstuck. We also have Get Help with our Ask an Instructor support system. This is where it goes directly to our instructors in the back end. You can send videos and screenshots. We typically send videos and screenshots back, and you can get very specific solutions that are personalized for what you're looking for. The toolbox has a ton of tools and resources in it, and of course, managing your account. So measure.tips/start will get you there. And did I mention it's made for teams? Why is that important? Because when you get one account of the Academy, you get 4 logins. So one of them would be for you. Then you've got 3 other logins that you can give. One for your implementer, one for your strategist person, one for maybe a vendor, because they're all going to have different questions. And so they each have their own account so they can have their own little measurement journey. Now, of course, if you're already an Academy member, thank you. And remember, every Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, we have the Measurement Marketing Academy office hours. We talked about that before. It's basically group coaching. Academy members, you already have your links. You can log in. You got the email earlier that came out with that. And then you also, if you log into the members area, you'll see the link there. So you just click on that link and that'll give you a link to join this week's call. And we look forward to chatting with you soon. Now, next week's topic is Getting Started. It's a Getting Started category. We talked about this different series we do, so it switches back to Getting Started. And this one's Google Analytics 101. We're going to talk about using filters, which are the most powerful thing in Google Analytics, but they are also the most dangerous thing in Google Analytics. We will cover the different filters you can use, why you're going to want to use them. We're going to show you how to set them up in that particular workshop. And it's going to help you find a better story, because I promise you, your Google Analytics wants to tell you what's going on with your marketing. It desperately wants to do that, but it needs to be set up in a certain way. Your data is probably kind of dirty back there and it's hard to see the story. But when you use filters to get clean data, which is what you're going to use them for, Google Analytics all of a sudden starts telling you the story that it wants to tell you. You actually see the story back there a little bit easier, and things get a whole lot simpler with Google Analytics because of filters. So it's not an option. If you're going to do this at all for real, you're going to be using filters. And so we wanted to, that's what we're going to be covering actually next week during Workshop Wednesday. Now, if you are not yet a part of Workshop Wednesday, join Workshop Wednesday. It's measure.tips/WW. Currently, it's free, by the way. So measure.tips/WW will get you there. Now, why do I say that? Because some of these workshops, in fact, this one in particular, we're making publicly available, but we do not make all of the workshops publicly available. So next week's workshop will only be available to those people who are Workshop Wednesday members. So make sure that you're on the list. Again, it's free. We'll send you out an email and says, hey, here's a link. You have a login to the membership site, and you can get into the Workshop Wednesday section and watch that week's workshop. So it's kind of something that we're doing as a service to help out the community as well. But the idea is that you've got to be part of Workshop Wednesday in order to see all of the different topics. Otherwise, you just sort of randomly come across a public one. It doesn't mean you're going to see all of them. So the only way to see all of them, become a member, completely free, measure.tips/WW. All right, you've just watched What's New? Updates and features released in May 2019. Thanks again for watching this workshop, and we will see you on the next one. Take care.